Between April 1975 and January 1979, Cambodia was transformed into a nationwide system of forced labor, starvation, imprisonment, and execution. In only 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, an estimated 1.5 to 2 million people died under the Khmer Rouge. The movement's roots went back to 1960, when Cambodian communists led by Salat Sar, later known as Pol Pot, and Noon Chia, secretly formed the Communist Party of Kampuchea. Inspired by Maoist ideas, they wanted to eliminate private property, urban life, and social class, replacing them with a self-reliant agricultural state. Cambodia was pulled into the wider Vietnam War, and in March 1970, Prince Norodom Sihanouk was removed in a coup led by General Lon Nol. Sihanouk then encouraged his supporters to join the Khmer Rouge, while civil war, foreign intervention, American bombing, and anger at Lon Nol's corruption helped the movement expand. On April 17, 1975, Khmer Rouge forces captured Phnom Penh after 5 years of civil war. Many residents initially believed the fighting was over, but within hours, soldiers began forcing the capital's roughly 2 million inhabitants into the countryside. Hospitals were emptied, patients were pushed onto the roads, and families became separated in the confusion. The Khmer Rouge claimed the evacuation was temporary, but Cambodia's cities were being deliberately dismantled. The country was renamed Democratic Kampuchea, with Pol Pot serving as prime minister and the Communist Party controlling the state through a secret organization known as Angkar, meaning the organization. Loyalty to Angkar was placed above family, religion, and individual identity. Money, markets, and private property were abolished, while schools and religious institutions were closed or destroyed. Buddhist monks were persecuted, communal eating replaced family meals, and children were frequently separated from their parents and placed into labor units. Rural residents from areas previously controlled by the Khmer Rouge were labeled base people. Evacuees from the cities became new people, who generally received harsher treatment, smaller food rations, and greater suspicion. Millions were placed into agricultural cooperatives and forced to work long hours in rice fields and on dams and canal projects. Unrealistic production targets, poor planning, and a lack of medicine created severe hunger and disease, while food was withheld even from many of the people producing it. The regime treated anyone linked to the former government as a potential enemy, including soldiers, officials, and their families. Intellectuals, teachers, doctors, religious figures, city residents, and people suspected of having foreign connections were also imprisoned or executed. Ethnic and religious minorities faced targeted persecution, particularly ethnic Vietnamese people in the Muslim Cham community. Decades later, the Khmer Rouge Tribunal legally found that genocide had been committed against these protected groups. The Khmer Rouge also controlled people's private lives. Marriages were arranged by local authorities, couples were forced to marry in collective ceremonies, and many were pressured to produce children for Angkar. Across Cambodia, the regime operated nearly 200 prisons and security centers. Prisoners were tortured into producing false confessions that named supposed networks of spies, allowing arrests to spread through families, workplaces, and the Khmer Rouge itself. The most notorious prison was Security Center 21, commonly known as S21, which operated inside a former school complex in Phnom Penh. The site is now known as Tu Ol Sling. The tribunal later concluded that at least 10,887 prisoners were detained at S21 and at least 11,742 people were executed at the prison or nearby. Only a very small number of prisoners are known to have survived. Many S21 prisoners were transported to Chung Ek, one of the locations later known as the Killing Fields. Similar execution grounds and mass graves existed throughout Cambodia, with hundreds of sites and thousands of burial pits identified across the country. As failures mounted, Pol Pot's leadership blamed imaginary enemies rather than its own policies. Internal purges accelerated, and thousands of Khmer Rouge members were arrested, tortured, and executed after being accused of serving Vietnam, the CIA, or other foreign powers. The total death toll cannot be known with complete certainty, but experts commonly estimate that between 1.5 and 2 million people died. Some victims were executed, while many others died from forced labor, starvation, untreated disease, and the destruction of Cambodia's medical system. And relations with neighboring Vietnam deteriorated into open warfare, and Khmer Rouge forces carried out violent cross-border attacks. In late December 1978, Vietnam launched a full invasion of Cambodia. On January 7th, 1979, Vietnamese forces entered Phnom Penh, ending Khmer Rouge rule over most of the country. The regime had controlled Cambodia for exactly 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days. The fall of Democratic Kampuchea did not immediately bring peace. Khmer Rouge forces retreated towards the Thai border, continued fighting as a guerrilla movement, and remained part of the Cambodian coalition represented at the United Nations during the Cold War. Pol Pot remained free for almost another 2 decades and died in 1998 without facing an internationally recognized trial. Cambodia and the United Nations eventually established the Extraordinary Chambers in the courts of Cambodia, commonly called the Khmer Rouge Tribunal. The tribunal conducted judicial proceedings between 2006 and 2022. Only 3 defendants were ultimately convicted for crimes committed under the regime. S-21 Commander Kaing Guek Y Av, commonly known as Doik, was sentenced to life imprisonment for crimes against humanity and war crimes. Senior leaders Noan Chea and Khieu Samphan also received life sentences. Noan Chea and Khieu Samphan were convicted of genocide against Cambodia's Vietnamese minority. Noan Chea was also convicted of genocide against the Cham Muslim community. These genocide convictions covered specific ethnic and religious groups protected under international law. They existed alongside the much broader campaign of crimes against humanity committed against Cambodia's general population. The Cambodian Genocide destroyed families, religious communities, professional institutions, and much of the country's educated population. Tuol Sleng and Chung Ek now preserve evidence of a regime that attempted to rebuild an entire society through forced labor, fear, and mass death. This has been Comic Book Cases. Thanks for joining us on today's deep dive into the Cambodian Genocide. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Comment below and let us know what you thought of the Cambodian Genocide. Stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next video.